These are sexy business to invest in the US. If you want to buy America, you have to think out of the box. And to buy America, sometimes you can even go out of the US. And that's what we're doing here, Joe. We are in Mérida. We're in Yucatan, Mexico.
We are.
Would you believe it?
Mérida, Mexico. I do believe it.
So today we're going to talk about how the young guys are not thinking on going corporate anymore, 9 to 5. They're thinking on entrepreneurship again. And the most crazy thing is what kind of businesses they are interested to buy. Things that you never think they were sexy, even myself.
Yeah.
I never thought I have a sexy business, and now it's becoming sexier. So
that's the crazy thing. It's shocking. Like the statistics that and the things that I'm reading are absolutely, I would say surprising, but not surprising. I think people are becoming awake to entrepreneurship more than ever before. And there was this crazy thing that I read recently that said people that are getting their MBAs coming from Harvard, coming from these Ivy League schools, they're turning down corporate America.
Yep.
They're turning down these like corporate jobs, some of them that would suggest they even get 6-figure salaries. So what are these people doing? What's this next generation doing? They're getting into startups. They're getting into the business world because I think the awareness level in and around business is the generation that is now coming into the business world is starting to learn and experience from that previous generation that, hey, you guys worked there for 20, 30, 40 years, and what exactly do you have to show for it? And let's face it, when you're 21 and you're 22 and you don't have a family, what do you have to lose? Mm-hmm. You have nothing. Now's the time to go become an entrepreneur and build a business. So I'll tell you, capitalism in the US is alive and well. I don't care what anyone says, because that's where they're gravitating.
Exactly.
Right? So yeah, you talk about the sexy business as well. Plumbing companies, HVAC companies, roofing companies, all that kind of stuff. 29 years ago when I was starting as an investor.
No way.
No, that's not the kind of stuff. You only did that stuff if you never went and got a university degree.
Of course.
In the hopes of landing some, corporate job and then climbing that corporate ladder, right?
The problem is that you go to school now, you get a student loan, and you owe a crazy amount of money by the time that you graduate, and then you get a job that is going to pay you what, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. A plumber is getting way more than that, and he didn't go to college, and he doesn't have the student loan. So those are the things that we got so much into. I want to go to college and get this degree, but people forgot about those kind of jobs that somebody has to do anyway. And,
You're right.
And they're very scarce.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah, and they're very scarce because not everybody knows how to change a pipe. I don't. So those things get expensive, and that guys are making money. And some guys are actually, I just listened to a podcast about a Mexican that started like that. He was even undocumented, and he started working in plumbing, and he sold the company for more than $100 million because he grew it so much. He got so many customers, and eventually he exited. And now he's into another venture.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. And how often can you do that with a software company, for example? Everybody thinks, oh, I'm going to create this software. By the time that you are finishing your software, there's already like 100 more better than yours.
Yeah.
Well,
and so to your point, there's a lot of like startups, right? And a lot of college, university students that have gotten their degree, then have gone to like Silicon Valley, and they were immersed in the tech space, tried to help build companies, but there's a lot of unknown with regards to that, and that's why the venture capital behind some of that stuff is pretty risky, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a fact, regardless of like economic conditions, market indicators, whether we're in a recession or not. The reality is you always need a plumber. Roofs need to be done. Electrical and electricians are needed. HVAC, look, coming from Florida, I tell you, we need HVAC, right?
Yeah.
So that stuff is not anything speculative. It's proven stuff. People need that. People need a place to eat. People need a place to live, which is why I've been doing real estate for 29 years. So, you know, for as much as I pay attention on what happens in the economy, I'm also searching for like recession-proof business. And that's the kind of stuff that people always need.
Yep.
And again, that younger generation is coming out of school and realizing that the older generation has this degree and they're in so much debt. Like, I'll tell you this, and I've said this on podcasts before, it blows me away. You talk about a pandemic. We just experienced like COVID. You want to know what the real pandemic is? The real pandemic in the United States is the student debt pandemic.
Yes.
It's mind-boggling. So if you're going to go into hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, why not go and venture off and build a business or get into a startup? And the United States is the land of opportunity, right? Which is why we're here in Mexico. Why? Because Mexicans, foreign nationals still want to gravitate to the US market.
Yes.
They have access to loans, SBA loans. So there's not only not been a greater time, but like entrepreneurship and the accessibility to like capital and to be able to do this stuff is just amazing. I'll tell you, Edmondo, my father came from Italy and came to North America with nothing in his pocket. Everyone needs to get their hair cut, right? So he opened up his own hairdressing business. Mm-hmm. And his response to me, I'm like, what made you want to get into that? He goes, well, I started off as a barber, and then I figured everyone always needs to get their hair cut.
Oh, the hair is always growing.
Hair is always growing, right? That's recession-proof. You got to get your hair cut. So he did that, but then he thought to himself, and you know, here's someone who very smart, and I look up to my dad, but not educated as far as like in the school system, because he came from a 5th grade education in Italy, right? But I said, so what made you then decide to ultimately invest in real estate? So he combined investing in business and then converting it, investing into real estate, because he looked at that as like a little bit more passive once that was built. So and I asked him, I said, what made you go from building a business, like being a hairdresser, and obviously, okay, you told me it was recession proof, everyone needs to get their hair cut, to then you invest in real estate. He said, well, I thought to myself, what if one day I physically don't have the ability to cut hair?
Yep.
What am I going to do? So I figured I needed to set myself up in acquiring real estate and doing it as a long-term thing. And that eventually, whether I could physically do it or if I was just tired of running this business, I would have built a portfolio of properties that would have been able to like sustain my lifestyle. And I tell you, you know, when I was young, when I asked my dad that, and still to this day, it amazes me how an immigrant who came and spoke very little English understood the power of building or buying a business and investing in assets that will produce a passive residual income, because he was thinking with that mentality and like long term.
I was reading a book the other day from a Harvard professor that has been researching about immigrants and their entrepreneurship ideology.
Yeah.
And actually, immigrants are starting more businesses than natives in the US, and they have a better success ratio. And I think
so. Why is that?
I think it's because we are more resilient, because we come from nothing.
Yeah.
And coming to the States, we know how to work like crazy to make it happen, because you know you have no other choice. It's either that or go back to your poverty. And you don't want to go back. And that's why you work like that. And the other thing, Joe, these kind of businesses that we're talking about, that they were not sexy. A business consultant here in Mexico told me something that changed my mindset. And he says, there's nothing sexier than making money. You don't care about the business.
Very true.
And he says, forget about what kind of business you have. Feel proud if you're making money. And that made me think about it, because what brought me to the US was a repair shop for 18-wheelers. It's not sexy at all. It's dirty, actually.
Yeah.
But
the numbers have to be sexy.
And the thing is, Joe, is very recession-proof business because trucks have to move anyway because we need food. You need a lot of different goods that are always transported by truck. Even if it comes from China, eventually you're going to need a truck to move it.
Yeah.
So the trucks have to be maintained, and there's always trucks to service. And they're
scalable businesses.
Of course.
Right?
And the other thing is that there's a scarce talent available to fix trucks, to fix the plumbing, to fix the AC of your house or whatever, you know? So those kind of things make it be always there, available for whoever has the knowledge to work on that business. And it's amazing that there are literally millions of businesses for sale in the US, and a lot of them come from baby boomers that started their businesses decades ago, and they were not sexy at all. They were just trying to make like your dad a living at the beginning. But that business kept going for many years that, hey, I don't need anything else. I don't need to invest in Silicon Valley to make money.
Yeah.
I'm making my own money grooming or doing this or doing the other, you know? And that's when you start changing your mindset and say, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be looking at crazy startups and just concentrate on these kind of businesses that have been there forever making money, like a cash cow, you know? Why don't we invest into that? And that's why we created Buy in America, because there are thousands or millions of those businesses. We have to make sure, like you said, that the numbers are right. If the numbers are right, forget about what's the activity they have, you know?
Well, I first off, I love what we're doing. And the second thing is, I have learned, and I heavily preach this, like my own niece, who was in university and wanting to get into the medical field, and then said to me, like one day she sat down with me and she said, Uncle Joe, you know, I'm not sure if this is something I necessarily want to do, but you know what do I do? I feel like if I do want to study business, I'm going to go and learn from a professor. Like I just don't know if that's the right direction. Where does someone like me go? And I looked her in the eyes and I said, you're looking at your uncle. So you have one of two choices, okay? And this was not just a message to her, but all the people that were listening. I said, you have one of two choices. You can either go to school and learn from a professor who's mastered the knowledge and information that derives from that textbook, or you can come work with me who's actually done it in the world. And she's like, well, obviously I would come work with you. I'm like, great.
The thing is
that's what I'm like. I'm trying to help you become aware, because there's a lot of youth today that are thinking, if I don't want to go to school, because personally, school to me, unless you have a specific purpose, like you want to be an attorney, an engineer, a doctor, not everyone needs to take that path to have success.
Yeah.
Right? Like you said, there's plumbing companies that have sold for like 100 million, or HVAC companies, or roofing companies. You don't necessarily need to go to get a post-secondary education, but here's what you definitely need to do. You need to align yourself with people like us, right? At Buying America, we're educating people on how to not only buy and find a business, but then the operational skills required. How do you invest in assets that will produce? So it's not where people are just getting the opportunity to be educated, but they can participate directly with us in these ventures. And this is why I love what we're doing. And this is why I love that we're in Merida.
Yeah.
And why, I mean, we also get to travel and all that stuff is
this
cool
is a
too.
nice workation.
Workation.
This is the thing. When you compare school, I'm thinking, for example, medical school, you learn from doctors that are actually saving lives.
Yes.
They are testing the skills and learning from practice. And business is different. Business, you go and do a textbook. But the guy that is teaching you how to grow a business, he doesn't even have a business. How come?
Precisely.
So that's what we are doing over here. We have made all the mistakes in the world. Joe, how much money have you lose making mistakes?
It's invaluable.
I mean,
totally.
and myself, the same thing. So of course, we have businesses that is getting us into a place in the US, and it's opened us so many opportunities to get into larger things, larger projects that we never thought before.
Yeah.
So the other day I was talking and I was making a video for my social media in Spanish, and I was saying, for example, right now there's hundreds, literally, of people in Mexico investing in houses in the US. And because somebody told them that it was a good idea either to flip or to buy to rent, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So and I said, okay, what would be better? 200 people buying each one house by themselves, or getting 200 people all together, instead of investing $200,000 each on their own house. What if we got those 200 people all together and we get a fund of several $1 million and invest it? If you're wanting houses, okay, fine, houses. But the buying power of getting everybody together, it's exponentially higher than one guy at a time, And that's what we are doing over here. Like with the real estate fund that we're creating, it just amazed me, the buying power that we can get. One thing. Second thing, the financing available that we can get if we are all together instead of each. Just the transactional cost gets reduced dramatically.
Yeah.
And then if we want to eventually sell the assets, it's not the same as selling one house at a time than selling 200, 300, 500 houses at a time. The selling power. So.
And the bigger you are, the more your door will be knocked on.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, to your point, because I thought when I first started off, I thought I had to do this on my own. I've recognized the power in collaborating with others, and that's why there's a lot of truth to this statement, which is your net worth is directly tied to your network. So the bigger your network is, the bigger your net worth is. And when I truly understood what that meant, is when it started taking me to a whole other level. This is not something that you need to do on your own. And we've created the opportunity for people to get involved, investing directly in a fund where we're going around and we're buying mobile home parks all across the United States. Can someone do that on their own? Sure, they can attempt it. How big are they going to get? How fast can they do it? But to be able to do that in numbers and at such a higher level, there's a tremendous power in that.
And I just, to finish today's episode, I'm going to tell you a personal story. My business started, and little by little, we reinvest everything we could. So in 20 years, we developed so many, for example, machinery in our shop. One day, I was invited to do a conference in a company in Mexico, in Monterrey, and I stayed there for 3 days. The owners of the company said, "Hey, we need one of your shop to open a location here in Monterrey." And I'm like, "Oh, great." And they said, no, you're not understanding. You have to do it. Very strictly, very, I don't know how to explain it, but with a lot of strength, they asked me, you have to open a shop. It was more like a suggestion. It was more like an order, right? Like, you have to do it. And then I said, okay, but in order to do it, we have to get a group of people together. So we have a group of investors that can do it. Eventually, we got 15 people that got reduced to 11 people. And that 11 people, we put the money, and literally in months, we have all the equipment that it took me more than 20 years. In 6 months, we got all the equipment that it took me 20 years to get into my shop. Wow. That's the speed of getting together, the buying power, the negotiating power, and the capital power. And the last and most important thing, the network, the human power, the great people that you can get together into something, projects like this. And man, these things explode so fast. So I think it's very important to stop thinking, especially me, like Mexican, it's very, very common that we want to try everything by ourselves. I think we have to change our mindset and work more like a group of people, because that way we're going to have 5% of something, but instead of having 100% of very little, 5% of something so huge that, man, you can make multiples of 10 times what you can achieve by yourself.
Well, they say Rome wasn't built in a day, right?
Yeah.
Rome wasn't also built by one person.
Exactly. So if you want to invest with us, we have extremely attractive fund on real estate, as you said, mobile home parks. And if somebody is watching this episode and you are also thinking on getting, hey, but yes, I want to invest, but at the same time, I want to also move to the States because it makes more sense to live there than here, and you need a visa, we also have some projects in which you can get investor's visa. And the idea is, again, we want to scale it together.
And I think I'll conclude by saying this. I think both you and I have a soft spot for foreign nationals, right?
Yes.
Because you originally being from Mexico, me originally being from Canada, and we kind of like met in the middle, and now we're talking about how beautiful the U.S. is and all the opportunities. So I think because of the experiences that I've gone through, the experiences that you've gone through, I would like, and I know you share the same sentiments, which is we'd love to be able to help foreign nationals, because that's how we started off.
Mm-hmm.
We'd love to be able to help foreign nationals get into the U.S. market, get into buying businesses with us, getting into investing into real estate with us. And we have a head start because we've been doing it for so long.
Exactly.
So
if you want to invest with us, this is Buy in America.